A blessed day. Welcome to my humble home. Since this message is delivered to you through video, I thought I might as well show you where I work. This is my writing room. As you can see, it is nothing fancy, nothing electronic except for the aircon. It is here where I wrote the first draft of all the books I've authored in the past 25 years. Today, I actually have a book to finish. A day like this, I call D-Day or Deadline Day. As writers, we treat deadlines as sacred, a matter of life and death. Everybody at ABS-CBN Publishing knows this. I never miss a deadline. I always tell them the day I miss a deadline is the day I die. My relationship with ABS-CBN Publishing began with Project Foreword. Speaking to you today is like going full circle. I was just like you, maybe a bit older and also a bit more experienced. When I got into PF, as we call it then, I already had 3 coffee table books under my name. I just turned 50 that year and was at the crossroads of my life. I was president of my own public relations consultancy company and was preparing for what I thought was my next mission in life, a professor's job in a university. But then I received a scholarship for a Christian leadership seminar in Hawaii to learn evangelism. It was there that I met and became a student of the best-selling author, R.D. Roberto. It changed my life forever. R.D. told me about Project Foreword. At that time, the world was grappling with the coronavirus pandemic. Coming from Hawaii, I was required to go on home quarantine. In those 2 weeks of being in isolation, I wrote the first chapter of the book, Aray ko Lord, alamin ang mga bakit sa likod ng bawat sakit, which I sent to ABS-CBN Publishing and eventually started my Project Foreword journey. In that journey, I was able to produce almost 80 books. A dozen of them became bestsellers. 5 won local and international awards. They made my name synonymous to the genre inspirational biographies, touching the hearts of millions of people, not only in the Philippines, but other parts of the world. It even earned me something I still could not believe to this day, the Nobel Prize. I've never considered myself a literary writer. The only thing I wanted to do was be a journalist. I became a student reporter at 17, a sports writer at 19, an editor at 20, a feature writer for most of my adult life, writing hundreds of articles for printed newspapers and magazines, and later on for online publications. Writing for me was a job I could easily do and allowed me to travel the world, rub elbows with the rich and powerful, and even develop lasting personal and business relationships with them. It was a job that sadly did not pay well. At 34, with children growing faster than my salary, whose education I could barely support with my paycheck, I retired from journalism to be a public relations consultant. For 16 years, I worked for various companies, writing press releases, industry yearbooks, and yes, coffee table books displayed in office lobbies, but nobody really read. Then the coronavirus pandemic broke out. The economy took a nosedive. So did the businesses of my clients. It was then when I crossed paths with RD and the Project Foreword. I still remember RD challenging our batch of finalists to write a speech like this. He asked us to imagine becoming the most successful Filipino writer of all time, winning all the awards there is, including the Nobel Prize. RD obviously wanted to see who among us would be able to inspire future writers like you. Unbeknownst to him, the assignment inspired me. It made me aspire for a life story that befits that speech, a life story for myself. It planted in me the seed of a dream that now has become a reality. To be honest, my dream was just to write. My dream was just to become the most prolific writer, inspirational writer from the Philippines in my lifetime. Winning awards was far from my mind. I just wanted to be prolific, and I meant it in every sense of that word. I wanted the seed that RD planted in me to become a tree and bear fruits that I would not be able to carry with my bare hands. A wise man once said, have dreams small enough to be attainable, but big enough to stretch you. My dream was to be a prolific writer, and I made a vow to myself to write 75 books for the next 25 years. I visualized myself writing 3 books a year, which was to me a realistic goal. Whether I would be able to sustain that for the next 25 years is another matter. I told God in one of my prayers that if He allowed me to live that long, I would do everything in my power to write for Him those 75 books. And it became my contract with Him. That dream eventually became an obsession. I devised a system that allowed me to finish writing and rewriting a book every 3 months, with a month break in between for mind clearing and planning. I approached the whole thing like an entrepreneur, identifying needs in the market that no author was serving and looking for people to help me serve such needs. My first book, Aray Ko Lord, became a bestseller. It resonated with Filipinos who lost lives and livelihood to the COVID-19 pandemic. The books I wrote after that were for my students in the business school. I noticed the dearth of locally made textbooks for business students, so I began writing my own in a style fit for them, with examples from businesses I personally knew. They were instant hit. It was after that when I ventured into inspirational biographies. Having been a sports writer in the late 80s and 90s, I had the privilege of knowing personally some of the greatest Filipino athletes of all time. And I made use of that relationship as a key to open doors. My book, The Big J, The Never Say Die Life of Robert Jaworski, became a bestseller even before it was published. It started as an ebook. Its success paved the way for The Magician, a book about Efren Bata Reyes, loved not only by Filipinos, but more so foreigners who were into billiards. After those books came the biographies of Lydia de Vega, Eugene Torre, and Manny Pacquiao. They were easy pickings for me. I did not stop there. As I entered my senior years, I reminded myself of my contract with God to write 75 books. I displayed that contract on my desk, and it made me busy both in mind and body. I was always on the lookout for materials. One morning, I remembered the story of Inga, or Dominga Kapati. She was a laundry woman in her place in Canlubang, the former hacienda. And she was the first Filipino woman to ever win an international golf tournament, beating the Americans in their own game. Those who haven't read of that book, please do so. I promise you, it would inspire you to become the best version of yourself, no matter the limitations you have right now. I also did biographies for people in business. I wrote about Leonardo Sarao, the man who created the Filipino jeepney. In Japsia, the man from Capiz, who built my favorite restaurant and eventually became my personal friend. That restaurant is Mang Inasal, by the way. And Rufina Salao, the widow fish vendor from Malabon, who invented fish sauce or patis. You probably have copies of these books. Please bring them when you go to ABS-CBN Publishing. I promise to sign them for you when we meet each other there. Sorry. Now let me tell you my secret or my secrets on how I turned my dream into an obsession and eventually reality. First, be a verb, not a noun. Stop bragging that you are a writer. Instead, write, and write some more. Don't show people what you are writing until you have finished them. Remember always that you are not just writing something, you're authoring a book. I have a mantra I learned from car racing. To finish first, you must finish. Second, get rid of that editor inside you. I say this with utmost respect to editors, as I have been an editor myself. Nobody wants to be criticized. Nobody wants to feel humiliated, to feel inadequate. Editors, no offense meant, but usually you have that tendency to make writers feel like trash whenever you critique their work. This is the reason why so many writers have become discouraged and even stopped. I don't want you to stop. Just keep on writing. I don't want that editor in you to get in the way of your writing. I don't want that editor in your head to make you feel that you are not good enough and that you are wasting the reader's time. Instead, I want you to just concentrate on writing. Write, and write some more. Allow yourself extra time to rewrite. Take note of the word rewrite, not edit. In authoring books, the magic comes from rewriting, not editing. Remember, you're making a book, not a film. Without an editor watching every word you write, the creative juices within you will flow more naturally. And you will soon find yourself finishing a chapter a week, completing an entire book within 3 months. That's what happened to me. My third advice, identify your passion and match it to a real need in the market. What topics are you so passionate about that you are willing to spend time and money to write about them? In my case, it was inspirational biographies. It turned out that there was a big need for it and that nobody was filling it. It was like a vacuum that sucked every book I wrote. Many of those books even became movies later on. Remember always, when you match your passion with the need of others, then you find your purpose, your calling. Happiness is when you have found your, what the French says, raison d'être, or your reason for being. My fourth tip, write with your heart. It was French writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, in his book, The Little Prince, who said that what is important is invisible to the eye. and can only be seen by the heart. When you write with your heart, your words turn into needles that go straight to your reader's veins and bloodstream, joining with their blood and touching their hearts, eventually changing their lives. That's how my books became bestsellers. And in due time, I hope that's how my books will change the world. And my fifth and final advice, always ask God for guidance. The year I started my Project Foreword journey was a difficult period in history. All over the world, millions were dying, and businesses, big and small, were closing. My prayer then is still my prayer now. Lord, inspire me so I can inspire others. This prayer works. Believe me, this prayer really works. And this is the biggest reason why I am here right now, speaking before you. As you go through your Project Foreword journey, remember the story of the pencil and what its maker told him when he complained of the hardships it was going through. Let me remind you, said the maker to the pencil, what's outside you is not important. What's important is what's inside you. Never complain when you go through painful sharpening. I only want you to write better. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You have an eraser, remember? And never forget this. You are only a pencil. On your own, you can do nothing. It is only when you allow yourself to be in my hand that you can accomplish great things. Friends, comrades, fellow pilgrims in this journey called Project Foreword, we are just pencils in the hand of the greatest author of all time. He is the author of our life story, and we are his pencil. Nothing more, nothing less. Whatever success we achieve, it is all because of him. Because without him, we are nothing. Goodbye for now. Watch out for my next book. I'll finish it today. Thank you. God bless you always.